You build the system that is supposed to stop attacks before they happen, not respond to explosions, not chase suspects after the fact, stop the event before anyone knows it was coming. You are not a soldier, you are not an intelligence officer. You are a data scientist with a security clearance and a badge that lets you enter a building. Without windows in a city that never officially acknowledges the building exists. The system is called Sentinel, not your name for it. That came from leadership branding matters, even for algorithms that decide who might become a threat. Your job is simpler than people imagine. You do not predict terrorism. You detect patterns, travel anomalies, financial transfers, communication clusters, behavior changes that look meaningless on their own but dangerous when combined. A single encrypted message means nothing. A plane ticket means nothing. A new bank account means nothing. But 10 small signals arriving in the right order can mean everything. That is what Sentinel watches. It does not sleep, does not get tired. It does not trust instincts. It trusts math. And math, you believe, is the closest thing humans have to truth. The first time Sentinel works, nobody celebrates publicly. There's no press conference, no medals, no speeches, just a quiet meeting in a conference room where a senior official thanks your team in a tone that sounds casual but carries the weight of relief. A man in another country had been moving money through small transfers, buying equipment that looked harmless, communicating with people already under surveillance individually, nothing illegal together, dangerous. Sentinel flagged the pattern. Authorities intervened. No one died. You go home that night and sit at your kitchen table longer than usual, staring at nothing, realizing that something you built changed the course of events you will never fully understand. You sleep well, because the system worked, because the numbers were right, because the outcome justified the process. Over the next 2 years, Sentinel improves, you refine the model, reduce false positives, increase sensitivity. The system learns faster than you expected. Not intelligence, not consciousness, just probability becoming more precise. Each success strengthens your belief that technology can reduce chaos. That human judgment, flawed and emotional, can be supported by something objective, something consistent, something fair. You begin trusting Sentinel the way surgeons trust imaging machines, not blindly, but deeply. Your brother has always trusted you. Not your job, not your technology. You. He is younger by 4 years when you were children. He followed you everywhere. Not because you asked, because he believed you knew what you were doing. You were the careful one, the planner, the rule follower. He was the opposite. Curious, friendly, quick to help strangers, slow to suspect danger. When your parents worked late, you were the one responsible for making sure homework was finished and doors were locked. He was the one who forgot both. You remember. One summer afternoon clearly. You were 10. He was 6. You were walking home from school when a group of older boys started arguing near the street corner. Nothing violent, just loud voices and angry gestures. You pulled your brother behind you automatically. Not because you expected danger, because protecting him felt natural. He stayed quiet, trusted your judgment. Later that night, your mother praised you for being responsible. He told her proudly that you always knew what to do. That sentence stayed with you longer than the praise, because it created an expectation. If something goes wrong, you fix it. If something feels dangerous, you act. If someone needs protection, you provide it. That belief shaped your life, and it shaped his trust. Another memory surfaces years later. He was 14. You were 18. He had gotten into an argument at school. Nothing physical, just words exchanged with a classmate whose older sibling was known for holding grudges. Your brother came home quiet, avoided eye contact, eventually admitted he was scared. Not of the classmate, of the older sibling. You drove to the school the next morning. Not to confront anyone, just to be visible, to stand beside him at the entrance. To remind anyone watching that he was not alone. He never asked you to do that. But the relief in his posture told you it mattered that evening. He said something you still remember clearly. You always show up. Not a thank you, just a fact. You always show up. That became the foundation of everything between you, and eventually the weight that would break it. Years later, when you graduated from university and accepted your first job in national security analytics, he celebrated more than you did. He told everyone in the family that his older sibling was protecting the country. You corrected him gently. "I'm just working with data." He smiled. Same thing. He simplified everything. That was his gift, and sometimes his weakness. He lives a normal life. Ordinary job, ordinary friends, ordinary routines. He fixes your sink when it leaks. He carries groceries for your mother without being asked. He remembers birthdays and calls relatives nobody else remembers. Reliable, predictable, safe. The kind of person systems like Sentinel are designed to protect, not detect. One evening a few months before everything changed, he came over to help you assemble furniture. You were terrible at it. He was patient, laughed at your frustration, made coffee while you read instructions twice. One point he looked at you and said, "You overthink everything." You shrugged. That's my job. He smiled. Your job is to protect people. Overthinking is just how you care. You remember that sentence clearly now, because it was the last ordinary moment you shared before the numbers turned against him. The alert arrives on a Tuesday morning. You are reviewing routine system outputs, scanning for anomalies that require human verification. Most alerts are minor, low-risk signals triggered by incomplete data. You clear them quickly, then you see the classification, priority level, critical. That alone is unusual. Critical alerts are rare. You open the case file expecting to see a foreign name, a flagged traveler, a network connection. Instead, you see a familiar name. Your brother's name. You stare at the screen longer than necessary, waiting for the mistake to reveal itself. A duplicate identity, a data entry error, a coincidence, something simple, something explainable. But the system does not correct itself. The name remains. Unmoving, certain. You open the profile. The first signal is financial. Small transfers, not large enough to trigger banking alerts. Not frequent enough to raise suspicion, but irregular, unusual for his income level. The second signal is communication. Encrypted messaging activity, nothing illegal but uncommon. The third signal is travel. Short trips to cities known for logistical coordination among extremist groups. Not destinations associated with tourism, not business hubs, transit points. You lean back in your chair and take a slow breath. Your brain begins constructing explanations. Identity theft, fraud, someone using his credentials, that makes sense, that feels safe. You begin searching for confirmation, you review login records, device fingerprints, transaction locations, everything matches, correct phone, correct computer, correct physical presence, no evidence of impersonation. The data is clean, too clean. You escalate the case internally, not formally. You request additional verification from another analyst on your team. You do not mention the relationship, you present the data as a standard review. The analyst studies the file, scrolling through transaction logs and travel records. After several minutes, he nods slowly. Pattern looks consistent. Consistent. The word lands heavily, not suspicious, not alarming, consistent. You thank him and close the conversation quickly. Your hands feel colder than usual. That evening you call your brother, not to interrogate, just to hear his voice. He answers immediately. Normal tone, normal conversation. You ask casual questions, how work is going, what he did over the weekend. Whether he plans to visit your mother soon. Everything sounds ordinary, no hesitation, no defensiveness, just routine. Before hanging up, he asks you something unexpected. You working too much again? You hesitate. Maybe. He laughs softly. Take a break sometime. The world will survive without you for a day. You force a smile, even though he cannot see it. Over the next several days, new signals appear. Additional transfers, new contacts, another short trip. The pattern strengthens, not dramatically, gradually, like a puzzle assembling itself piece by piece. Each morning you log in hoping the numbers have changed, that new data will contradict the previous analysis, that the system will correct itself. Instead, each update adds weight to the same direction. A second encrypted contact appears. Then a third, a financial transfer occurs on the same day as a known logistical movement in another country. Correlation, not causation, but the model does not distinguish between the two, it only calculates probability. You watch the risk score climb, 61%, 64, 67. Increment feels like a door closing. You begin running manual simulations, adjusting variables, testing alternative scenarios. You remove the travel records, risk drops to 52%. You remove the financial anomalies, risk drops to 48. You remove the communication signals, risk drops to 39. But you cannot remove reality. The signals exist, the data is real, the pattern is consistent. Every model produces the same outcome when fed the complete picture. Risk probability rising, not explosive, steady, controlled, predictable. You start sleeping poorly, not because of fear, because of uncertainty. You trust the system, you built the system, you understand the math. But this case feels different. Personal variables distort professional judgment. Motion interferes with logic. You know this. That awareness does not make the feeling disappear. At 3 in the morning, you find yourself replaying old memories. Birthday parties, family vacations, ordinary moments. You search those memories for signs. Clues you missed, warnings you ignored. You find nothing, and that emptiness feels worse than evidence. Protocol requires escalation once risk crosses a specific threshold. You know the number, you help define it. 72% probability below that. Monitoring continues. Above that, intervention begins. Sentinel recalculates continuously, updating risk scores in real time. One afternoon, the number changes. 73%, the threshold is crossed, quietly, without drama. Just a small shift in probability. But the consequences of that shift are enormous. You stare at the screen for a long time. The escalation button sits in the corner of the interface. Simple design, single click. That action triggers a chain reaction. Investigation teams notified, surveillance authorized, detention possible. All legal, all documented, all irreversible. You imagine your brother being questioned by agents, confused, afraid. You imagine your mother receiving a phone call in the middle of the night. You imagine explaining your role in the process. You imagine living with the outcome. If the system is wrong, then another thought appears. What if the system is right? That question stays longer than the others. You think about the people who might be harmed if you do nothing. Strangers, families, children. People who trust that systems like Sentinel exist to protect them. People who will never know your name or your brother's name. People whose only connection to this decision is the consequence they might suffer. You think about your brother's face, his laugh, his trust. You think about the word consistent spoken by your colleague without knowing the weight it carried. You think about every moment you protected him as a child. Every time you showed up. Every time he believed you would do the right thing, and now the right thing is unclear. Because two definitions of right are colliding: professional right, personal right. They do not align. They may never align.
You close the case file, not permanently, temporarily. You mark the alert for additional review. Delay, not denial. Just time. Time to gather more data. Time to confirm accuracy. Time to think. You tell yourself this is responsible, cautious, professional. You tell yourself you're preventing a mistake. You tell yourself you're protecting your family. You tell yourself many things, but underneath every justification is a simpler truth. You are afraid of being wrong, afraid of being right, afraid of what either outcome will cost. Days pass, nothing happens, no new alerts, no incidents. The pattern stabilizes, risk probability fluctuates slightly, but remains above the threshold. You continue monitoring, quietly, privately. You avoid formal escalation.
Each day that passes without consequences reinforces your belief that patience was the correct decision. You begin relaxing again, sleeping better, working normally. Life returns to routine almost. 3 weeks later, the news breaks. A small explosion in a transportation hub in another country. Not catastrophic, not headline dominating, but serious. Several injuries, property damage, public fear. Authorities announce an ongoing investigation. You watch the report casually at first. Incidents happen, threats exist. That is why systems like Sentinel exist. Then the reporter mentions the suspects, a logistical support network, individuals who facilitated movement of materials and information, not the attackers, the enablers. You feel a subtle shift in your chest, unease, recognition, something familiar. The next morning, your office is tense. Conversations are quieter, screens display new data streams. You log into Sentinel and immediately see the update. The system has linked the attack network to existing flagged profiles, multiple connections confirmed. Your hands move automatically, opening the network diagram. Nodes appear on the screen, names connected by lines representing communication and financial relationships. One node sits near the center. Highlighted your brother's name. The room feels smaller, air heavier. You review the timeline. Transactions matched shipment movements, messages aligned with planning phases. Travel corresponded with coordination meetings. Every signal Sentinel detected earlier now fits perfectly into the larger pattern. Not random, not suspicious, predictive. The system saw the risk weeks before the attack occurred, and you stopped it from escalating. Your supervisor calls you into his office. He closes the door quietly. No anger, no accusation, just controlled seriousness. We're reviewing the Sentinel logs. You nod. He turns his monitor toward you. The case file appears on the screen. Your brother's profile, your user ID, your actions, every decision recorded, every delay timestamped, every note archived. The system remembers everything. He speaks calmly. The alert crossed threshold. You nod again. I flagged it for additional review. Silence fills the room. Then he asks the question you have been avoiding. Why wasn't it escalated? You open your mouth. No words come out. Because the honest answer is simple. Because he is my brother. But that sentence carries consequences you cannot yet accept. So you say nothing. The investigation expands quickly. Authorities identify multiple participants in the network. Some arrested, some still missing. Your brother is detained, not publicly, quietly. No media coverage, no dramatic scenes, just a phone call informing your mother that he is being questioned. You sit beside her in the living room as she listens to the explanation. Her face shifts slowly from confusion to fear. She looks at you, searching for reassurance. You offer none because you know more than she does. And that knowledge feels like betrayal. Weeks pass. Interrogations continue. Evidence accumulates. Your brother maintains that he did not intend harm, that he believed he was helping friends, moving money, sharing information. He claims ignorance, not malice. The investigators believe him, partially. They classify his role as logistical support, unintentional facilitation, still criminal, still consequential, still connected. Months later, you finally visit your brother. The prison visiting room is quieter than you expected. No shouting, no chaos, just low voices and tired faces. He sits across from you, thinner than before, older, not physically, emotionally. For a long moment, neither of you speaks. Then he asks the question you feared. Did you know? You hesitate. That hesitation answers everything. He nods slowly. Not angry, not surprised, just understanding. I always trusted you, he says. The sentence lands harder than any accusation because trust is not something you can defend against. Your professional life changes quietly. Responsibilities reduced, access restricted, not punishment, precaution. Colleagues avoid discussing the situation directly. Conversations become formal, careful. You sense judgment in small gestures, not hostility. Disappointment because the system worked and you interrupted it. Some colleagues distance themselves completely, not out of cruelty, out of self-preservation. Association with you now carries risk. Your judgment is questioned, your objectivity doubted. You understand that does not make it easier. Your mother stops asking about your work. She never blamed you directly, but the silence between certain sentences speaks clearly. She visits your brother weekly. You join her sometimes. The drives are quiet, the conversation's careful. Everyone knows something broke. No one knows how to fix it. One evening, you sit alone in your apartment, staring at the Sentinel interface on your personal laptop, a training version of the system, simulated data, safe environment. You replay the original alert. Watch the signals appear in sequence. Financial anomaly, communication pattern, travel record, risk probability rising, 70%, 71, 72, then 73. The moment that mattered, the decision point, you freeze the simulation at that exact second. And you realize something terrifying. The system did not fail. The math was correct. The warning was accurate. The only variable that changed the outcome was you. The official review concludes. No criminal charges against you. Your actions did not cause the attack, but they removed the earliest opportunity to prevent it. The report uses careful language. Procedural delay, human judgment override, operational risk, professional phrases designed to describe mistakes without assigning blame. But the meaning is clear. You were the failure point. Your brother receives a reduced sentence. Cooperation, lack of intent, clean history. Years in prison, not decades, still long enough to change a life permanently. Your mother visits him regularly. You visit less often. Not because you do not care, because you do not know what to say, because every conversation feels incomplete, because responsibility sits silently between you. You continue working in the same building. Different department, different role. Sentinel continues operating. Improved, expanded, trusted. New analysts monitor alerts, new decisions made, new risks detected. The system moves forward without you. Efficient, unemotional, reliable exactly as designed. One afternoon you receive a routine system notification. Training alert, simulated scenario, you open it automatically. The interface looks identical to the one you used before. Clean design, simple controls, risk probability rising, 70%, 71, 72. You pause, watching the numbers climb. Understanding the weight behind each decimal point. Understanding the cost of hesitation. Understanding the illusion of certainty. The number reaches 73, threshold crossed. The escalation button appears. You hover your cursor over it, not because the simulation matters, but because the memory does, because the lesson remains, because the truth is permanent. You built a system designed to protect lives, and it did. It worked exactly as intended. It identified risk early, provided warning, offered intervention. The system performed flawlessly. The only flaw was human, not malicious, not reckless human. You trusted family over probability, emotion over evidence, hope over math, and people were hurt. Not because the system failed, because you did. That is the part no algorithm can fix, and the part you will carry longer than any sentence your brother serves. Because prison has an end date. Responsibility does not pause. Years later, you will still think about that Tuesday morning. The alert appearing on your screen, the name you recognized, the choice you made. You will think about it at family gatherings, where your brother's chair remains empty. You will think about it when your mother asks if you have spoken to him recently. You will think about it when you see news of another attack prevented by systems like Sentinel, systems that worked, systems that saved lives, systems you helped build. You will wonder if you could have saved those people. The ones who will carry scars for the rest of their lives. You will wonder if they think about the people who might have stopped it. You will wonder if they would forgive you. You will wonder if you deserve forgiveness, and you will never know the answer. Because some questions are not designed to be resolved. They are designed to be carried. That is the weight of building something that matters. It does not end when you leave the office. It does not end when the system is improved. It does not end when the reports are filed and the reviews are closed. It continues quietly, persistently, in the space between what you intended and what actually happened. In the gap between probability and consequence. In the silence after the question, no one asks, but everyone feels, did you do the right thing? You built a system to answer questions like that. But some questions cannot be answered by math. They can only be answered by living with them. And so you do, day after day, year after year, carrying the weight of a choice that was never simple and never will be.